Dear participants of STELR-STEM Training for Asia Pacific Science Teacher Trainers, it's my honor and pleasure to talk to you today about good governance and capacity building for water cooperation in Asia and the Pacific region. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you physically, but I'm recording this presentation so that you can benefit from some of the work which UNESCO is doing in Asia Pacific region, and especially in the area of water management, which is important part of our understanding of the role of STEM for a better society. We know that we are in a very interesting part of our existence on the planet Earth. We have many global challenges and pressures, and especially in the area of water. We have floods, as you can see from some of these slides. We have droughts. We have serious challenges of water supply. We are facing many disasters, and also women are affected in one of the very worst ways in terms of them carrying water, in terms of the impacts of climate change on our food and water security. And to be honest, for our existence on the planet Earth. So what science, technology, engineering, mathematics can offer? How can we build capacity at a primary and secondary education level and all the way through to tertiary education and research to be able to solve some of these challenges? Let's first look into water security. Water security, as defined by UNESCO, is the capacity of a population to safeguard access to adequate quantities of water of acceptable quality for sustaining human and ecosystem health on a watershed basis, and to ensure sufficient and efficient protection of life and property against water-related hazards, floods, landslides, land subsidence, and droughts. All of these are serious challenges, so we need to provide water for drinking as well as making sure the ecosystems are healthy and we are well protected against these disasters, which are what we call water-related disasters. So let's first look into the Asia Pacific region, which is one of the most important regions in the world because more than 62% of world population lives in the Asia Pacific region. There are these top 5 trends which were identified by the economists, and I want to highlight them to you for today's discussion. The top 5 trends, number 1 is there are new partnerships which are emerging for science and development. Overseas development work is now affected with the new emerging nations as well as new order in terms of science and technology. For example, in Asia Pacific region, the role of South Korea, Japan, China, Indonesia is changing, and their advancements in science and technology is leading the way towards a better world. There are new billionaires, there are new possibilities of partnerships, and there is a bigger role for the Chinese government, for example. Urbanization and sustainable development is a big challenge for our region, as is the challenge of the cities which have become too big. Like for example, Jakarta city, as we know, the population during daytime around 9 million to more than 20 million, and the night population, which is a different population. The cities like Manila, so mega cities is becoming a big challenge, but also medium-sized cities and their urbanization is becoming a big challenge as well. Then climate change affecting our existence in terms of food, water, energy security, in terms of the intensification of the water cycle, in terms of the heat waves. So we know there are many big challenges, and how private sector plays a role in managing climate change. Rising inequalities is a big challenge for us. We are living in a world where poor are getting the lowest of the lowest in terms of the resources, and the richest, the top 1%, may be owning most of the resources, more than 50% of the resources of the planet. And then, of course, we know the fourth industrial revolution with the rise of artificial intelligence and also the new challenges in terms of STEM and how we will be able to provide the latest knowledge needed for the new industrial 4.0 era. So, what is our value proposition? How do we train people to be able to cope with these challenges? Let's take it one step further and let's look into the environmental challenges. In Asia and the Pacific region, as I mentioned before, urbanization is one of the key challenges. With urbanization, we have the challenges of environment, water, our security of energy, our security of better transport, better jobs. So, as we have urban population which is exceeding more than 43%, as we have top 6 mega cities in the world in Asia Pacific, and the projection is more than 50% of Asia Pacific's population will be living by next year in mega cities, in big cities as well as the urban areas in the Asia Pacific region. China alone will have 1 billion urban people in 15 years from now, and more than 150,000 people a day are coming over to the urban areas. So, in this regard, water quantity and water quality is our common challenge. There is a sharp increase in the water use because there are too many of us. The groundwater resources are depleting very fast. The cities are sinking like Jakarta, like Manila, like many other cities, because we are pumping too much groundwater and that's causing land subsidence, and also there are huge problems with the water quality. Food security is our big challenge. Climate change is resulting into biggest challenges in terms of the hydrological extremes, in terms of the climatological extremes, the floods, the droughts, the heat waves. All of them are big issues for us. And we have massive pollution of our vital water resources. Nitrogen, pesticides, endocrine disruptors, all of them are into our waterways, and biodiversity is losing its way very, very fast. And many species have become extinct as well. So what can we do? How we build capacity to deal with these challenges? How do we educate our students, and how do we educate our public at large, and very importantly, how do we have the proper kind of technicians, engineers, and people working in the water industry? So let's go back to the water security concept. So security, human security, security which is socio-economic security, and security which is ecological security. So if all of these securities are provided, only then we will have the water security. This is what is defined by the World Water Council, and this concept is vital for today's discussion. So let's recap our key concerns for water, and especially water governance. How do we manage our resources? How do we have the proper institutions and infrastructure? So first of all, we have a big challenge of limited knowledge of climate change and climate shift for agroecological zone. Agro means agriculture, ecological means ecological areas. And so in terms of the different zones we have, like the arid zone, the semi-arid zones, the areas which are more tropical areas, like for example here in Indonesia. So we have limited knowledge of how climate is affecting these areas. We need more and better understanding through better science and better education. Many of our decisions are misinformed decisions, and these decisions are resulting in unsatisfactory projects and project outputs. So we may be constructing water infrastructure which is not the right water infrastructure. For example, in an area we may build a dam, but there may be no more water available into future. Or we may be building the sewage structures, but they may not be sufficient considering the intensity of floods may be increasing, for example. We have inadequate human resources, human, financial, material resources. We are facing an economic crisis in water management in terms of water investment. Here in Indonesia, for example, in cities far away from Jakarta, have very limited resources even to supply basic chlorine to make sure there is no more bacteria, or bacteria levels are at an acceptable level. We have conflicting needs of society and the funding agencies. So how do we reconcile the funding agencies' areas of prioritization with what communities need? How do we have a balance between the regional projects and the local projects, and also making sure the management decisions are not out of time and not out of commitment, both from political side but also from a point of view of making sure the communities are being served in the best possible way. We have challenges in terms of our work patterns, in terms of our religious beliefs and what is being provided, and the lack of understanding of how do we use our local and indigenous knowledge for dealing with these challenges. In all of this, what is happening now is the world has decided to work on these big goals, what we call sustainable development goals, making sure by 2030 we have a balance between people and planet, and we have prosperity for everyone. So that's where these 17 sustainable development goals are very important. I'm sure you've heard about them and you may be working on them, and especially for today, sustainable development goal number 4 about education, you are part of this particular work. But let's look into these goals. Goal number 1 is about no more poverty. Goal number 2 is about zero hunger, which means everyone has enough food. Goal number 3 is everyone has good medicine and health facilities and better well-being, and we fulfill the education as a basic human right. Goal number 5 is about equality of gender, and goal number 6 about clean water and sanitation, which I'm talking today, and goal number 7 about affordable and clean energy, number 8 about decent work, number 9 about industry, innovation and infrastructure. Very importantly, goal number 10, making sure that we reduce inequalities. Number 11 about sustainable cities. Number 12 about responsible consumption and production. And then goal number 13 about climate change. Number 14 about life below water. And number 15 life on land. Number 16 about peace, justice and governance and institutions. Number 17 about international partnerships. So among these goals, number 6 goal is very important, because unless there is clean drinking water, unless there is protection against water related disasters, and unless there is proper sanitation, none of the other goals can be fulfilled. Also, there are some other important things happening globally. One of them is Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. People in Indonesia, in Southeast Asia, know that disasters are increasing. We have tsunamis, we have landslides, we have earthquakes, and especially now Indonesia unfortunately is facing many of these disasters because it's on the ring of fire. Then Paris Agreement about climate change and reduction of emissions, and also, as I mentioned before, the Sustainable Development Goals, and for small islands, the Samoa pathway. How do we make sure the small islands are well protected against issues of climate change, like if the temperatures rise beyond 1.52 degrees centigrade into near future, then the sea level rise will become so high that maybe these islands may not be there anymore. So we have to make sure we are working on these issues in a very proactive way. So let's go back to water and the Sustainable Development Goal number 6. So goal number 6 is about water security. Make sure water is available for drinking as well as is available from the point of view of ecosystems, and we have better sanitation. There are 6 targets under goal number 6. 6.1 is about drinking water. 6.2 is about sanitation and hygiene. 6.3 is about water quality. 6.4 is about water use efficiency. 6.5 is integrated water resource management. and 6.6 is about restoration of water-related ecosystems. Then these goals are supported by participation of local communities. Water affects all of us, so everyone must play a role in management of water. Then goal number 6A is about international cooperation and capacity building. So today's work and this lecture is about building capacity in understanding of these water issues. So now I'm sure you will be able to understand that goal number 6 about water security links all the way through from drinking water available for every one of us to making sure there is sanitation and hygiene, making sure the quality is not affected and is of good quality, and we have better efficiency both from drinking water, from washing, from making sure the agriculture is efficient, and we are managing our resources in an integrated way, and we are looking after our ecosystems, the flora, the fauna, and making sure that the planet is sustainable. So this is a goal which links with all other goals, but especially goal number 3, for the better health, we need to make sure there are no more waterborne diseases. Also making sure that the deaths and illnesses from water are reduced. Goal number 11, making sure also that people are not affected from water-related disasters. Goal number 12, linked with reducing the releases of waste into water. Goal number 15, making sure the better conservation and restoration of ecosystems. And goal number 15 in terms of making sure the invasive alien species are managed in a good way. So this is just an example that unless we achieve goal number 6, we will not be able to achieve the other sustainable development goals. So what UNESCO is doing? UNESCO is working in the area of sciences in an integrated way, in an intergovernmental and international programs, enabling scientists, enabling stakeholders, politicians, governments working together. So these programs include International Basic Science Program, which promotes the teaching of science and mathematics at all levels. Then Man and Biosphere Program, which is about setting up biospheres, and these biospheres are the places, what we call places for sustainable development. Here in Indonesia, we have a number of biosphere reserves. Then International Hydrological Program. The International Hydrological Program is about water management in a number of countries. And then the Geoscience and Geoparks Program and the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission about oceans. And within these programs, there are a number of bodies which may be of interesting to you. So Global Geoparks Network, the UNESCO Biodiversity Initiative, World Water Assessment Program, the UNESCO Program on Engineering, UNESCO Program on Local and Indigenous Knowledge, among many others, including for disasters and World Heritage. I'm sure you are aware about some of them. Let's now look deeper into the International Hydrological Program. It's an intergovernmental program of the United Nations system devoted to water research, water resources management, and education and capacity building. So we have many similar programs to what we are doing today, especially focused on water for building capacity of teachers and students as well as for the communities. International Hydrological Program works in a number of phases since 1975. Now we are in phase number 8, which will be finishing in 2021. There are 6 areas within that. So area number 1 is about water related disasters. Area number 2 is about groundwater. Area number 3 is about water scarcity and water quality. Area number 4 is about water and human settlements like cities. Area number 5 is about eco-hydrology solutions, and number 6 is about water education. And we are mobilizing international cooperation, we are strengthening science policy interface, and we are building institutional and human capacities. What is our common challenge internationally? Water is not high on the agenda of everyone. So we need to make sure the water is in the minds of people. So that's really our challenge. How do we put it into the minds of the people? So this is one of the statues. Maybe this is one way. But really, to put water into the minds of the people, we need to make these issues more understandable and more clear to the people. So how do we do that? For that, we need a transdisciplinary capacity building approach. So we need to understand people, policy and planning issues. We need to understand socio-economic and environmental interactions. And how do we engage with the public, and how do we bring education? So you as teachers and trainers can play a very big role for all of us. How can you play this role? By better understanding of water issues, by looking into available water technologies, by looking into how can we bring socio and economic understanding of water management to the people who are more affected and most affected, and to the decision makers. But there is a paradigm lock. The paradigm lock is there are people who understand the science of water, the water hydrology. They know about research and ideas and understanding, but they really don't know how to use their knowledge. And then there are stakeholders and managers who are more interested to make sure the water is supplied, the sanitation is available, but they don't know what science can offer. So our job together is how do we break this paradigm lock by bringing water scientists, engineers together with the water managers and stakeholders like the common public as well as politicians and the decision-making bodies. So for that we have what we call the integrated water resources management approach. Integrated water resource management is a step-by-step process of understanding water issues, understanding how can those issues be solved, understanding how do we move together, and how do we continue to provide for growing population, but at the same time we take into account the challenges to water resources, and especially challenges about climate change, about water value, about water conservation. So UNESCO has defined a special process for that, for integrated water resource management, in which we can continue to work together and improve our understanding, and in the process we have a better society. So we need to think about water as an integrated challenge rather than people on an island thinking separately about agriculture, or about fish, or about growing plants, or about computers, or other issues. How do we bring an integrated approach, bringing different groups together? So that's where engaging stakeholders is very important. For engaging stakeholders, we need to understand how much resource we have, how much water we have, how much we should use for hydropower, how should we look into environmental conservation, what water should be provided for irrigation, how much water should be for domestic uses, how much should be for industrial uses, how do we manage the flood management. And in this process, we should have a coordinated approach, a consensus approach, setting priorities, setting cost sharing and benefit sharing, setting financial support, and looking into environmental management. You think it's possible? Has anybody done it? Yes, there are some good approaches. There are some good possibilities which are available. And I encourage you to look into IWRM and UNESCO, and you will be able to find a lot of material which you can use for your teaching and training. And in this regard, there are modules for different parts of the water cycle and for how do we bring a coordinated approach. So these manuals and guidelines, here is the example. Integrated water resource management guidelines at the river basin level. These guidelines are available, they can be downloaded, and they can be looked into on a step-by-step approach. How do we manage a river basin? So this is in summary the process. We use a spiral approach rather than going on circles. So first step is look into what is the problem. Then we conceptualize how it can be solved. Then we bring the coordination among all stakeholders, and then we implement the solutions, and then we look into what has happened and what has improved, and then we start on the next cycle of the spiral. So rather than going in circles, we go upwards, better socio-economic and environmental outcomes. So let's go back to the education part. On education, education in STEM is usually very specialist education in science, in technology, in engineering, in mathematics. Or, for example, here in the area of waters, there is specialized education in environmental science. So from a general base, we go towards more specialized education. So after year 12, we go into universities and we do more specialized education. And people become scientists, they become engineers, they become mathematicians. So from the point of view, we give them certain specialization. So as these people become specialists, they have lesser and lesser of integrated understanding. So to be able to solve these big challenges we have, we need to change our education system. So in the first phase, up to year 12, we bring general understanding of these big issues. Then in the secondary education, we start specializing, but then we start looking into the integrated approach and lifelong learning and broadening our understanding. So how do we bring it into our training and learning institutions? This is our big challenge. So in that regard, we need to understand the social, we need to understand the economic, and we need to understand the environmental sustainability for sustainable development. So that's really what UNESCO is trying to do along with other stakeholders. So let us look into some examples of how we have engaged with youth, how we have tried to solve some of these challenges. Here in Indonesia, we are working with young people on the issue of climate change and the youth leadership using UNESCO biosphere reserves, as I introduced before, like Cibodas Biosphere Reserve, which is not far away from where you are, Gunung Luzer National Park in Sumatra, Bukit Barisan Selatan National Park in Lampung. So here we bring the young people together, 17 to 25-year-old. They look into climate change issues. They look into how can they mitigate them. They look into how they produce the communication material by making movies, by making special posters, and then how do we make young people as leaders for climate change. And this has been a very successful exercise, peer-to-peer learning, understanding each other, bringing young people together, making networking possible. And Indonesia has been a big success that the three top winners went to tribal climate camp in the US for climate change training. And also it has been taken as a best practice at the UN level. Also, we are setting up green schools, what we call the Education for Sustainable Development, ESD, Global Citizenship Education. And there are a number of schools. We worked with the Ministry of Education and Culture here. And also here in Indonesia, we have Adviata School and the Green School. So we are working together on these areas. So what we are trying to do is to bring heritage, creativity, and sustainability together by bringing society, economy, and environment for sustainable solutions, and water is one of the key areas among them. This is what we call sustainability science approach. So we start looking into the sustainable society by first understanding the key challenges from natural sciences, from water sciences, and related environmental interdisciplinary knowledge. We bring the social systems together, we bring the technological innovation like systems for recycling, renewable energy, by bringing the social understanding of the social norms, ethics, values, and economic systems. By bringing these ideas together, we can start thinking about a sustainable society. So here is a dialogue between the natural sciences and between the social sciences. So we bring the academic disciplines together, integration together for helping society to move to next level. So I hope my lecture has given you some ideas about what are the key challenges in Asia Pacific region. And then very importantly, what are the issues in water? In water, our key issue is better coordination, better understanding of the science, better understanding of the issues from a political and economic point of view, and looking into how to bring interdisciplinary approach. And also very importantly, how do we become a sustainable society from sustainable science which brings science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and very importantly, social sciences together. So I'm available if you have any more questions. You can contact me through my Facebook. So this is introduction to my Facebook, or you can find me also on Twitter. So let's hope we link together. We try to solve these problems together. Let's become part of a bigger movement for a sustainable world, a world in which we have a balance between people and the planet, and there is prosperity for everyone. And as we say, according to 2030 agenda, which is about 17 sustainable development goals, we leave no one behind. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful meeting, have a wonderful training.